I was there. I don't have to listen to it.
This week's show because it was a disaster.
When you live in a beach resort, it's easy to forget whether you are playing or working. On each week's show, we settle in with a cocktail and try to figure out if there is a difference. This is Day Drinking on Delmarva.
I was like, hey, you want to do this live? And I'm like, sure.
And I am Todd from GoodCleanFunLife.com.
And I am Tony Russo, no relation, and you're listening to Day Drinking on Delmarva, a podcast about life and culture on the Delmarva Peninsula. So much to get to this week, and hopefully it won't just be me talking for the next 45 minutes.
We're going to try to keep you calm this week.
Yeah, well, there's a lot that I have to say about a lot of things, but they're not interesting. They're only interesting to me. And before we get to all of our fun stuff, though, each week we like to give a shout out to our sponsors. Our sponsors are the drinks that we are drinking. If you want to sponsor, if you'd like to sponsor us, reach out and sponsor us. But until then, we picked drinks. And I'm still on what I call Fat Boy Punishment Juice. This is gin and soda, but we were running out of time before the show started, so I had to use a canned seltzer. And I do not like them, broadly speaking.
Right.
Fortunately, there was a grapefruit one that tastes like kind of like a knockoff Fresca. So I can live with that. But I prefer to just I like seltzer flavored seltzer. The bubbles are all the flavor I usually want.
Right. Do you make your own seltzer typically?
Yeah, we have a Soda Stream or whatever, but my wife, who's been mostly on the wagon during the week, which is a goddamn miracle to me. I don't know. I'm like, are you sure? She's like, well, you know what? She's trying to live longer than me, I guess, because so she's cut back significantly on her drinking, which means that she's upped her soda intake, and she likes flavored sodas and she doesn't like water. She doesn't like non-flavored soda water, Christ, enough to drink it all the time instead of booze, and I don't blame her.
Right.
But so flavored seltzer for her. Well, so this is sponsored, I guess, by Flavored Seltzer. Somebody should throw me a couple dollars for that.
LaCroix.
It's like alcohol, but less burny.
My favorite seltzer comment is the guy who invented it was like, it's like water, but it hurts.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm drinking today in honor of the cold weather that we're having outside our window here, a hot toddy. So a little green tea with some bullet bourbon, and I put a little splash of amaretto in there too, just to kind of
sweeten it up.
So I'm trying to warm the soul. I got lady under my feet. I'm trying to warm my toes. It's cold in this 120-year-old house on a blustery day.
Yeah, no, it's been weird to have so much snow and so pointlessly, right? It's we didn't have enough snow to do anything with except shovel off of our walks. And that's what's interesting for me is that they didn't cancel school at all. Like there was a delay today for Worcester County, but for the most part, there haven't been snows. It's like, come on, you want to get out of the house. We want you to get out of the house. Right. How dangerous could it really be? Bus drivers are panicking. Usually the bus drivers are the ones that call school off, but they're panicking. They're like, I don't know if anybody noticed it. They don't really need bus drivers as much as they think they did. So they're like, yeah, no, we could drive in the snow. Let's do this.
Yeah. I in the infinite wisdom of the Board of Ed, I'm sure it's like, well, we've been fighting so hard to get everybody back to school. Why don't we just slide around on the streets a little bit?
We don't want to look like quitters. Also, you can find us socially where we're not nearly as prolific. But you can find me on Twitter mostly. My handle is by Tony Russo. It's at by Tony Russo on Twitter and Instagram, but I don't really use Instagram a lot. And the show, Todd, where can people find you and the show?
You can find the show at Day Drinking on Delmarva on Instagram, where we're sharing pictures of our day drinks. Although maybe we need to up the the usage there a little bit. But you can also find us if you care to watch the show recorded live. We've been streaming on both the Good Clean Fun YouTube channel, so that's Good Clean Fun Life YouTube, and the GCFL Productions Facebook page. So got a couple watchers, got a couple likes on there. You can even comment. We'll probably ignore your comment, truthfully. Although when we didn't communicate a whole lot right before the show, and I was set up, and like after this, I'm going to have to go outside and do some work. So I was like, if Tony doesn't show up, I'm going to just invite a bunch of people to the podcast and just record it anyway.
Just taking calls, right?
Just taking calls. Why not?
And that is our sponsors. Each week we like to talk about one cool thing that we've done because we live here or as a result of living here, things like that. I'm gonna first, because my one cool thing should be relatively short, and then we're going to get into Todd's, and that's going to take us into the rest of the show. So my one cool thing is I finally started posting on Medium again. I've put out 2 blogs on my personal website by TonyRusso.com, and you can check them out. They're both about the reptile people that I've been writing about. I have a book due out shortly-ish called Dragged into the Light, something. Sherry Schreiner. And it's about reptiles and conspiracies, and I think you'll like it very much. But there's a bunch of stuff in it. There's a bunch of stuff that's not in it because it was just too convoluted. So I'm writing blogs about other stuff that didn't make it into the book that I think is still important to talk about.
Oh, that's fun.
But on Medium, and I'll have a new one out Sunday, which is going to be, I think, pretty cool. But on Medium, I've just been going back to doing my regular kind of introspective blogging, I guess, blogging. And this week I put up a story about my neighbor having turned his flag upside down, his American flag upside down. Yeah. And I try not to be super judgy about it, but right. One of the things that I think I bring out is that people don't know what team they're on anymore. Like I want to be on the American team, but I don't want to have to hang my flag upside down, and the rules for how you're supposed to behave with a flag tend to not be followed a lot by the people who claim that they need, their freedom to fly their flag. And that's a concern. It's a question I deal with. I don't know how successfully I answer it, but I think I pose it pretty well.
It was a great piece, as I said in the pre-show with you, Tony. I read it, and it's always been a bother to me, and I always equate it with like sword rattling, like flag waving, and probably maybe somebody smarter than me said something about that. But for most of the summer, we flew the gay pride flag alongside the American flag, and that for sure confused a lot of people around here. And it was just one of those things that to me it made sense, because it's like, hey, we got a foot in both camps. We want to be nice to people and also love
we
America.
Also still like here, yeah.
And but you did kind of make the argument about the whether it's the gay pride flag or any variant of the American flag, you're really signaling more to piss somebody off than you are.
Right. It just feels, I don't like to have my flags waved at me. I made a correction before I published it, because without thinking, I said gay people would never have a flag like that. And I'm like, yeah, they would. Let's check. And sure enough, you can buy a gay American flag, which I don't think, I think if we're going to take the quote American flag unquote as a symbol seriously, mm-hmm. and we're going to say that you shouldn't desecrate it. Mm-hmm. Desecrate is a weird word. It's a weird word. It means that you're doing something bad to my spirit.
Right.
And I don't know if it makes any sense, but it's certainly like gay people have a really cool flag. Why would you get a tackier one? That was the most surprising thing about the research I did into that article, that gay people actually had such an awful tacky flag. But again, hey, it goes against the stereotype.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic.
Yeah. Maybe they need a makeover of their flag.
Right.
By two middle-aged white straight guys.
Well, but I think that a blue line flag, and they could do like jousting, like a gay American flag on one side, and then a blue line American flag on the other side. And Maryland would be the place to do it. It is, after all, our state sport.
Yep. I love it. And it's funny. And of course, you didn't even in the piece get into the whole wearing the flag and converting the flag into, all sorts of different clothes that are inappropriate.
Well, no, it's appropriate for Rocky, inappropriate for rock star,
Yeah.
And it's kooky.
The one thing that I was going to say, and what I kind of go back to is, like tattoos. Like I have tattoos. I enjoy the tattoos that I have, and Nelly is an apprentice, and so I understand the symbolism of things.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. You're not going to tell me you have a gay pride American flag that you just got this week, are you? Because I'm going to feel like garbage.
No.
All right.
No, but now I'm thinking of it. But it's just one of those, like, I'm not going to knock somebody for getting a tattoo that I don't think symbolizes what I think it.
I get it.
To me, like if you're going to put something on your body, you put it on your body. It symbolizes what, unless it's like an overt symbol of hate.
Right.
I'm not gonna judge that. I think the biggest thing is the blue lines, and you mentioned your brother's a police officer. I'm friends with a number of police officers.
A detective.
A detective.
I don't know if it matters, but I think it matters to him.
It's okay. Yeah. So, and he's probably the one person listening.
Right, listening.
But I'm always bothered by the Punisher thing. The Punisher skull is something very near and dear to me because I grew up reading the comic book, The Punisher, and understand the context. But it's also been co-opted by the Blue Lives, and I know how I feel. I'm using this platform to say I don't think that it means what you think that means. But if you want,
and the thing is that we talk about outward signs, and I think that if I were to make an outward sign, I would want it to be more of a welcoming than a diswelcoming one, than a discursive one. And put up whatever flag you like. It's just feels so inconsistent. Specifically the American flag. The way we think and talk about it has been so muddled over my brief time on this planet. And I honestly can't say, like, you should know something about someone because of the flag that they have out in front of their house.
Right.
I shouldn't know that guy is going to answer his door not wearing a mask, but I do.
Right.
And that's unfortunate. It's unfortunate because it makes me more biased, not just because I disagree with him, but because it plays into my stereotypes. I'm building stereotypes based on flags. And this is the part where I don't talk for the rest of the show.
Well, it was a really interesting piece, Tony. I enjoyed it.
You're not even going to get to tell your story again.
We're only halfway through. Well, my one cool thing is I had we have a lot of projects that we've been doing. I put out, as I mentioned last week, we were putting out the year in review, and that was a really enjoyable thing to go through and kind of take stock in all the things that we were able to do and the positive stuff that we learned from the past year. So I think it was good, and celebrating those small things and celebrating some of the other work that I've been doing. And that's really what this podcast has I feel like, become. It's more just us talking about the cool projects that we're doing, because we live here, at the beach, and we work for ourselves. And I don't know, it's a long way around, but pretty exciting. Last week, I did not get to interview, but the podcast that I helped produce, Stage 4 Clinger, with Kate and Claudia Nichols, they've been interviewing people over the past year. It started literally almost a year ago, almost to the day. And they've done, we're up to like 50 some episodes. They have 50,000 unique downloads in a year. The guests that they've been getting have been, one upping, and they're making the slow climb to really being, I think, a pretty recognizable podcast. And it's a great concept. Kate is a hilarious, witty comedian who's put her life on hold to take care of her mother, who has stage 4 breast cancer. Her mother, Claudia, is one of the funniest people in that kitschy 60-year-old Southern way. So like some of the guests that Kate has brought on, who are comedians or podcasters or even like famous YouTubers, Claudia just has this sort of innocence, but asks the questions that, like, the typical mom would ask, that you kind of cringe at, but you also are like, oh, I'm glad you asked that. So last week was a big guest, and they interviewed Emily Gordon and Kamal. Help me with the last name. Nagiani. I have it written right in front of me, but I still can't say it unless I hear it.
Hair's breadth away from Oscar-winning couple.
Yes, hair's breadth away from their movie, The Big Sick, or Big Sick. And what a neat interview, and a neat couple to get a peek into their life. And it's one of those things where you're like, okay, so here's this sort of ordinary mother-daughter team interviewing this Hollywood power couple, but I don't know that they wouldn't consider themselves a power couple. It was just a really enjoyable podcast to produce, a point of pride to have been involved in it for the past year. And so to anybody who listens to this, I strongly encourage you to go over and to check out the podcast. Cancer affects so many people, and this is just a fun kind of thumbing the noses at cancer, and making the best of the situation, and also the quarantine situation.
Well, that movie Big Sick was about, like, that was a true story.
Yes.
And did they talk much about their experience dealing with illness? And
well, so it's real interesting, because the podcast itself is they touch on cancer in the beginning and at the end, but almost briefly, and it's more about just the entertainment aspect. And Claudia loves reality shows, and that's what they end up talking about. And of course, with this movie, they do talk about that, and they do talk about the role of the caregiver, because that's kind of a consistent theme through the podcast as well. And it's really neat. It's an incredible story that I actually haven't seen the movie, and I'm it's queued up to, but hearing them talk about it and then be interviewed by Claudia, I think was just really, it was very enjoyable. And it's a big name, but it didn't feel like a stuffy interview. Although my favorite part, and the best way to sort of exemplify Claudia and all her quirks is they talked about the Big Sick for for a good portion of the podcast. And then Claudia said, okay, so you're in a new Marvel movie that's going to be coming out. What's it called again? The Eternals. And then the one question she asked was like, so do you shoot something from your hands? And then just moves right on to like, something else about reality television, or she's so endearing to me. I think it's and they were such a great couple who are obviously very much in love with each other, and it was a good thing to
so I have to redirect you as the interviewer. 2 quick questions. Is Kamal the person that's in the Marvel movie, and who does he play?
Oh, yes, he's in the Eternals, and he is actually, I don't know which character he plays.
So you don't know if he shoots anything out of his hands either then.
So I could, that was a good question.
The other thing is just the premise really quick of The Big Sick is that he has essentially a really nice date, and what turns out to accidentally be a one-night stand with his future wife. He goes over to see her, and she's in the hospital, and she's in a coma for 3 weeks or something like that.
Yeah.
And so then he just gets to know the family, and it's such a good, touching, funny story, and they're both brilliant in it. It's not that, like, it's the kind of movie that I wouldn't like, except it's really good.
Yeah. I like good movies.
Yeah, no, it was such a pleasure to see. I've been a fan of his comedy, so it was a pleasure to see him do that well. But I don't know anything about.
And I was a huge fan of Silicon Valley, and another Claudia-ism was you were in Silicon Valley, and I love that show, but I also hated that show. And then she just moved on, and
moving right along.
There's no pretense if you're gonna get the Claudia treatment.
That is absolutely fantastic. And do they have a website for the podcast, or can it be found on just where you're listening to this now? What about that?
Yeah, so you can follow them on Instagram at Stage 4 Clingers. The website is stage4clinger.com. And yeah, it's all about the podcast. And like I said, they're a year in, and I think they have some great content, and could really kind of take it to the next level. Claudia's doing well with Stage 4. She's dealing with it. There has been a little bit of a switch in her health of late, which is concerning. But the same thing. They're just going forward with the show and good stuff.
That's fantastic. It sounds like we were just about to lose you. So in case that didn't get caught, you said they're doing well and they're going forward with the show.
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome. You dipped out. It's weird what I'm listening for now. Because when I listen back to the podcast, a lot of times I'm like, oh, I wish we had done this or not done this. And so that's why this is the second week in a row I've been on Todd about his
on my audio,
on his audio, but he didn't say anything about my video because my face is lit up red enough.
Yeah.
For
nice backlighting, Toddy.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Did you have the other cool thing you want to talk about? You wanted to talk about that other project, or?
Well, we have a lot of stuff that's coming up. I've thrown my hat in the ring for to possibly do wedding videos. Like we've done wedding videos here and there, but we gonna like move that direction. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. We're also doing a cooking show. We'll be doing a live cooking show next week, which is through Yoga Vibes, and I'll be just multicam producing it and trying to make it look good, and Natalie will just be cooking what is the thing that actually makes it look good. So,
and you're going to stream this?
And we're going to stream it. Now it's through Yoga Vibes. I think that it's a pay class. But can they find out information on that? Go to yogavibes.com to see if there's yogavibes.oc.com.
I see. And so how do you have two cameras you set it up with, and you just sit in the middle and ping back and forth?
Yeah, so we'll do like we'll do a 3-camera setup and have, like a top view and a close up on the hands and then a wide for the talking bits.
Do you need a wacky neighbor if you're doing a 3-cam?
Yeah. to burst through the door.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also we're excited. Did I tell you this, that we're actually and I'm going to save this. I mean, I'm going to tease it now, but we are actually going to be a sponsor of the Ocean City Film Festival this year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So our friend Courtney over at the Residence Inn is on the board or committee or board over there and asked us to get involved. And, we've talked about it. Every year it comes up. And again, I read your article. We got this local podcast that I'm proud of. Really kind of big right now on supporting local creators. That's kind of
so
ties it all together.
The Ocean City Film Festival. This is third year.
I think we say that every year. I think we say it
might be 40 years old, right?
Yeah.
And is it still good to go? Is it still in March? Are they going to try to push to May? Do you know?
It's as far as I know, they're doing little gift baskets and fun stuff like that that we're going to be contributing to, and the details I will have for you when I have them.
Oh, I see. It was very cool. This must be the 5th year, I guess. I was at oceancity.com the first year. Mm-hmm. And one of my interns is a founder. So I remember them putting it together. I remember how excited I was for them. But I think was last year their breakout year? Didn't they get
where they had like more like international or
right? They had a lot of international films and almost more submissions than they could handle. They changed the submission rules, I think, to make it a little bit harder to get in.
Yeah,
which is always a good thing, because then you're like, okay, well, these are vetted. I mean, even if I don't like them, it's not just, these aren't a bunch of kids and their friends, showing their TikToks
or me showing my ASMR video of chopping wood.
Yeah, but you could submit your dark, your gritty, gloomy Todd.
Yes,
that's film festival worthy.
I have some details for you. The 2021 Ocean City Film Festival will be streaming virtually March 4th through the 11th. And you can find out all the information at ocmdfilmfestival.com.
That's very, very cool. So I might go.
Yeah.
If I can go and not go to Ocean City, anytime I can do something that involves not going to Ocean City, I'm for it. Like almost everything I do because it involves not going to Ocean City. There are only few things I do, even though it involves going to Ocean City. But for the most part,
anything to stay out of Ocean City.
Well, it's funny when you put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, oh, that's exciting.
Was that the end of your list? Because you did a good job. You talked the whole time.
Did I talk the whole time?
And you didn't even offend any public figures, as far as I know.
Well, that's your job, isn't it?
Oh, we got 12 minutes left. We're gonna,
one of the things that I have discovered recently that I'm sure that you'll have some comment on is I think that I like history.
And because you're old, you have to start buying Civil War books when you turn 45, I think.
Is that what it is? Okay.
I don't have any, but no. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, well, maybe the last thing, I finally picked up our friend Stephanie's book, and I'm gonna read that. And the last book that I read, we talked about, is I've discovered, I've kind of known that I'm more interested in nonfiction, and I picked up Chasing Alice and and cracked it open and really got drawn in the really the first couple pages because, well, one, it starts with the murder, no spoilers there, but that like kind of going back Stephanie going back and talking about the history of the Eastern Shore, and of course Stephanie has such a great writer's voice and voice. But I'm like, you know what, I've been reading more and more articles about current news and as it relates to like history, and those are the longer form articles that I find myself getting lost in, and I'm like, this never happened before. I never got, I've always been just kind of a headline person. So I think that I might like history, and I'm going to try to pursue that a bit.
Well, one of the things that I think I've always been interested in history, so it's obviously a side of maturation. But I think when you find out that you get a better idea of what's going on, if you have a deeper understanding of what's already happened, when you can start to, what I think history does when it does it well is it connects you to like a flow of culture instead of just a bunch of facts. Like I very, very rarely read the news at all. I mean, there's little in the news for me. I guess if I have to start hiding, I don't know, Muslims in my basement or whatever, that would be fine. But I'm sure there'll be like a memo, right?
You'll find out on the show.
Yeah, the day-to-day bickering of morons just isn't interesting to me. But reading about what they used to say about the day-to-day bickering of morons and how pointless it was, it gives me a lot of satisfaction.
Right.
So, and real stories about real people have always been, all of my interest has been less in the famous people and more in the, individuals who, just did their thing and shut up about it and tried real hard, and that's what I mean. Stephanie's stories about her favorite teacher who, was murdered. And it's as much about that woman being her favorite teacher as it is about that woman being murdered. And that's why it's so easy to connect with, because this is a real person who had a real life. And again, I mean, Stephanie's book is brilliant, but when you can do that, when you can make people connect with not just the event, but the people and the place and the time, it's good. Sucky-inny. Engaging.
Engaging. Sucky-inny. Just like this show, very sucky-inny.
It's a sucky-inny show if I've ever seen one. All right, well, we're up against it now, so we're gonna take it and put it away.
Speaking of,
sometimes it's okay to bail on a sentence. You don't have to finish every sentence, even if you start it wrong, Tony.
Well, maybe it's my fault. I did a quick search because I felt silly for not knowing, but Kumail in the Eternals movie is playing Kingo Suen. So that will be, and starring opposite, of course, Angelina Jolie. So
that sounds bad guy-y.
It's they're all like super powerful beings, and it's a book that it's not readily available to me. It's a book that I always knew about but never specifically read. It was like one of those 70s books that was like a little too cosmic-y in the early 90s, when I wanted more of the gritty stuff.
Very well. All right, well, that's all I got. So until next time,
remember, it's whenever you say it is.
So until next time at the beach,
it's happy hour whenever you say it is.